Exclusive. We're learning China has temporarily shut all ground operations in Gwadar and parts of Balochistan amid rising security threats. Top sources tell CNN News 18 this follows recent coordinated terror attacks, triggering serious concern in Beijing as well. The Chinese ambassadors raised alarm during a meeting with Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister seeking foolproof security. All Chinese ground staff, we're learning, have been withdrawn and evacuated via special flights, while projects has been halted temporarily. Pakistani staff, though, will continue limited groundwork as Chinese teams monitor operations remotely. Sources also say that China will resume operations only after a complete security overhaul in Gwadar and Balochistan. CNN News 18's Akanksha Swaroop joins us with more details. Gwadar is seen as a cornerstone of China's regional connectivity, also trade ambitions. How does this change the security situation on ground zero and also China's strategy towards Gwadar?
Remember, during the day, we've earlier just received inputs on how the Defence Minister of Pakistan, Khwaja Asif, has already made this admission to the Pakistani lawmakers that there's been a complete paralysis of their security apparatus because of the rise in the Baloch insurgency and the attacks that have only risen in the days gone by. And so, Kritsween, in the latest, what we are learning is that there's a lot of hustle and bustle within Pakistan and a lot of turmoil with regards to the overall security situation. You mentioned Gwadar. There's also, in fact, Balochistan, where there seems to be a complete paralysis. And in the latest, the Chinese envoy to Pakistan has, in fact, raised concerns over the security of the Chinese personnel who have been deployed as far as Gwadar port is concerned. And you rightly highlighted, in terms of connectivity, Gwadar is extremely strategic and pivotal for China and for Pakistan as well. But as the Foreign Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister of Pakistan, as we all know, Ishaq Dar has had that meeting with the Chinese ambassador to Pakistan, where he highlighted his own concerns with regards to the Chinese security personnel. So what we are being told in inputs that have been shared by Manoj Kumar Gupta, our investigations editor, that only a limited number of Chinese personnel will now be in Gwadar. In fact, they will be only operating remotely. The ones on ground level are going to be the Pakistani personnel, and many of these Chinese officials have already been evacuated via emergency flights, and so work will now happen in a limited sort of operational manner. But this is a growing concern, especially because of the rise in Baloch insurgency and the number of attacks that have been taking place. On Saturday alone, there were 7 attacks at different locations conducted by Baloch insurgents. They've lost over 170 security personnel in the rise in these Baloch insurgency incidents, as has already been admitted. But we can tell you that there have been coordinated attacks and targeting of these Chinese officials, for which China has been tremendously concerned and, in fact, very miffed with Pakistan. And so Pakistan right now is in a very tricky position, given that the US and India are now back on the same page in terms of strategic cooperation. Pakistan has already received higher tariffs than India. They are now trying to go back to woo China, but China is in no mood to, in fact, grant them any concessions with regards to the deteriorating security situation.
This clearly has irked China, and I think that communication is going through very clearly. Stay on with us, Akanksha. I do want to bring in defense expert Colonel Rohit Dev. Good morning, Colonel Dev. What do you make of this? You know, we've seen this sort of continuity in Baloch insurgency incidents, and Pakistan is now having to answer these questions being asked by China. China having to withdraw some of its officials. They're saying mere suspension doesn't mean that, you know, all of these projects are going to be shut down, but they're certainly pointing the needle towards Pakistan, asking some tough questions now.
Right. So I think the concerns are very genuine from the Chinese side. And it stems from the, issues of the investment. I think nearly 60 billion USD has been invested or proposed to be in the CPEC corridor with Pakistan. And ever since last about a decade, more than 100 odd Chinese nationals have been killed, being in those projects. So there are concerns about the infrastructure security, which China is pushing and has been pushing. And you must have heard some reports that even Pakistani military was guarding some projects, couple of years ago. And the economic stability and the debt which is being accrued towards Pakistan, Pakistan has been in no position financially to pay off these debts, and more so, the Pakistani interests have dwindled towards the U.S. interest in the near past, and that is also worrisome.
Why was China even expecting any sort of stability in Pakistan to begin with, though, Colonel Dev?
No, so it's not about just civility. See, when you talk about even Balochistan, you know, while we may term it as an insurgency, I have a different perspective, because Balochistan, by tradition and history, has been a land much before even Pakistan was born. And the resources being pledged by Pakistan to China, now to the United States, actually, when you see whether the sui gas part or the other mineral-rich regions, they actually are in Balochistan. They are not in Pakistan. And if we distinguish these two as two different identities, it takes a different shift, because Balochistan is not going to stop anymore. Balochistan is going to ensure that whatever is the struggle to take back its own land is going to happen. And that impinges a lot on the Chinese investments. And actually, it's a caution for U.S. upcoming investments which they are planning to do in Pakistan. So I think from visual perspective, you look at it, whether it's a terrorism spillover, whether it's operational delays of the CPEC itself, or whether you see the security of personnel and infrastructure. Pakistan is not able to live up to its expectation in terms of the currency paid to it by China over the last decade. And Pakistan
There's
will
some
not be
serious
able to
answering to do, and the damage that China continues to suffer because of Pakistan not being able to